everybody's time. So welcome. We would love to be all together, but wouldn't that be the case for so many things right now? So we're so glad that we have such great turnout for tonight. Just a few little housekeeping notes. Tonight's session will be recorded. Attendees will be muted, as you've noticed. But again, please introduce yourself and add to the conversation and the discussion in the chat box. So obviously this year has certainly been a wild ride, and we appreciate you all for coming along. My name is Jake Jacobson. I'm a board member, and also I just like to talk a lot, and so they figure that I'd be a good one to kind of thread today's discussion together. But tonight we're celebrating the extraordinary creativity, generosity, and courage demonstrated by our partners, members, funders, and staff. So whichever one of those categories you fall into, and odds are you probably fall into about 2 or 3 of them, we want to thank you and we want to celebrate you. And so we just appreciate bringing everybody together tonight. So we're going to get rolling with our program soon, because I know some of you are here for the prize drawings coming up later. But first, let's have a little poll. And you can put this in the chat here. The bike boom has been big news this year. Raise your hand if you joined the cycling frenzy. Who had a new bike day this year? So we'll leave this poll up for 30 seconds or so. Let's see, do we have the little poll guy going? Oh yeah, here we go. So click on your polling button at the bottom and you'll see poll 1 bike boom. Excuse me, I have to answer. 1 second. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, okay. All right. Submit your answer and we'll get to see what's happening. Take 1 second, think hard, choose wisely. And while you're doing that, we'll leave it up for about 30 seconds or so. And then I say we keep these pedals turning, and let's welcome Bike Walk KC's, drum roll please. Everybody do a little drum roll. My dogs just started barking out of excitement. Welcome Bike Walk KC's co-founder and executive director, Eric Rogers.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It's really nice to see all of your faces.
I love
it only virtually. Thank you all for coming. We're really happy to have you all here. I'm just gonna give a few shout outs to some folks that I know are here. Let's see. Oh, the poll ended. Do you guys want to share the results real quick? And then I'll jump back up.
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
I did that accidentally. I'm sorry.
Well, you got to be quick in this world. You know, you can't procrastinate. So yeah, so let's take a look at this. All right. I love this. So 55% rode more often. Raise your hand if you're one of those that rode more often. That's awesome. Rode farther, rode somewhere new. That's what I've kind of enjoyed about it, is that I've taken the chance to explore some places that I had not ridden before. Bought a bike. Yeah, I know our friends at Spokes were even sold out, which was pretty awesome. Bought bikes for my family members. That's so nice. Now, was it with a selfish motive in mind? Did you buy the bike for a family member so they would ride with you more often? Is that what happened? All right, I'm seeing some nodding. That's good. So no, and then love this, 30% advocated for safer streets. So that's fantastic, and that's exactly why we're here tonight. So it's a perfect segue. You guys teed me up perfectly. So I will now hand it over to my good friend, Eric Rogers.
Again, thank you all for being here. It's really good to see your faces. I want to recognize a few special people with us here tonight. First of all is our Bike Walk KC Board of Directors. So if you are one of our board members like Jake and some of the others here, go ahead and raise your hands and give us all a wave. Thank you all for your service. Next up is our employees, our staff of the organization. If you work here in any capacity, raise your hand and give everybody a wave, please. Thank you all. And then finally, I know we have a few folks who are on a few of the local bike pedestrian advisory committees around the region. I know we have Carrie from Shawnee, Michael from KCMO. If you're one of those folks, raise your hand, give us a wave. And then I know we have some city staff and some elected officials. If you're in those categories, give us a wave. Thank you for being here. So as Jake mentioned, we have a lot to share with you and a lot we want to celebrate. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to hear reports from some of our team about what we've been doing this year and then what we have planned for next year. So first up is Bike Share, our Ride KC bike program, and Eric Vaughn, who's the director of that program. Liz, I think we're going to have to unmute Vaughn.
I think I'm unmuted.
Oh, he's got it. Cool. Okay, go ahead.
Very good. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Bike Share has been extremely busy this year with the bike boom that's been on. Our numbers have been really high and we've seen a lot of spikes throughout the year. So we're definitely going to surpass ridership from last year without a doubt. So it's been great to have everybody out, getting out and riding and active. And we've also had a lot of changes happening this year. You've probably lately seen some of our new electric bikes that we have out. If you haven't been on an electric bike before, I highly recommend it. They're a lot of fun and they'll really give you a new perspective to biking. And you have probably also seen some of our new hubs that are out. If you remember in the past, we had our stations that you would dock a bike into. Well, since we don't need those stations anymore, we actually rehome them in several communities around the country, Des Moines, Omaha, Fort Worth, Texas, and replace them all with brand new bright blue bike racks that you can lock the new e-bikes up to. So we've got brand new bike racks out there on the street. They're really cool and eye-catching, easy to lock up to. But we were also able to rehome those other equipment and make sure that they are seeing new life in other communities where Bike Share continues to grow all across the country. And speaking of growth, we are also in many new locations. If you're not already aware, we have bikes in all of the Johnson County parks. We now have bikes in the city of Lenexa. And coming in the spring, we'll also be launching bikes in KCK. So some really new exciting developments, people all throughout the metro really embracing Bike Share. And the initial numbers from Johnson County and Lenexa have been really excellent. So we're excited about them embracing Bike Share and the culture of active living out there as well. And lastly, we've done a lot of work this year for transit integration. You all are probably familiar in the past, we've always participated and really cooperated heavily with local transit. In the past, we've had our bike and bus pass where you can get all your services in one. And so this year we've partnered with Ride KC to step that up even further. And now you can use the transit app. If you haven't downloaded it already, I highly recommend it. Transit app will now track all of your transit needs in one app. It'll do route planning for you. And best of all, I don't know if you all can see this here, but if you want to get a Ride KC bike, now you can just click on it and it's automatically going to open the app and take you directly to prompt you to scan that bike and check it out. So every way we've got you covered. We're in more areas of the metro than ever, and we're working more and more with transit every day to make sure that Bike Share is integrated as a part of public transit and is serving the people who need it the most. Thank you all. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or anything like that.
Eric Vaughn. Moving right along, we're going to turn it over to Thomas Moorfield. Thomas is our Director of Community Planning, our program that partners with a lot of communities and cities around the region to work on bike and pedestrian and other plans. Thomas, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So despite the craziness in the world around us this year, we have a lot to celebrate in terms of planning in 2020, including all kinds of different work with different partners around the region. And just to give you, a snapshot, that's everything from a transit accessibility study we completed with the KCATA this year in the Paseo West neighborhood to a sidewalk strategy for the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. We also this year completed a bicycle master plan for the city of North Kansas City that's recently been named by the Missouri chapter of the American Planning Association as one of the best plans of any type in the state of Missouri this year. So we're very proud of the work that we've done this year. And it's also exciting to see some of our planning work from past years begin to move towards implementation. So in 2018, we worked with a lot of community partners on a plan for 47th Street. And now on the ground on 47th Street in Westwood and KCK, you can see a new street with the road diet, new crosswalks, bike lanes, pedestrian refuges, and now millions of dollars in federal funding has been awarded for even more transformational improvements on that corridor. So it's really good to see our work moving from policy and planning into implementation so that it can begin to have positive impacts on people's lives. But I think the theme of our planning work in 2020, especially in the context of a pandemic, is how we've been rethinking our outreach and engagement with the community. And a couple things that I'm very proud to share. One is our new Home Street Home exhibit, which was made possible through support with the Health Forward Foundation. So this is, and I think we're going to share a link in chat, it's a modular, interactive, freestanding exhibit that's really designed to engage people of all ages about their built environment through different fun activities. And it's a really fun thing to use, but we also hope it'll be really engaging and educational. And it's something that we hope to use in everything from public meetings to community events to galleries and exhibits, and even part of our training programs around the region. And then in 2020, as has been mentioned, we also launched our organizational impact dashboard in partnership with My Sidewalk. So this is looking at hard data, everything from our educational programs to our bike share operations to an interactive database of all of the different trails and bike infrastructure around the region. This is a tool that puts all of that data about walking and biking in the region together in one place. And where it used to be in different places are hard to find, we hope that now it's all together in a way that can help all of you and us to make better decisions about our communities. So we're excited about these new tools that we have available. We hope you find them engaging and useful, and we're looking forward to another year of great work.
Thank you, Thomas. And if you haven't noticed, Liz is dropping in some links to things we're talking about along the way into the chat. And we'll also send these out after the meeting later this week, so you can have links to all those resources. So next up, we're going to turn to our education program, and I'm going to hand it over to Laura Steele, who is our Director of Education.
Hello, thank you all for being here. The pandemic definitely impacted education and the way that we typically do our programming, but I want to give a huge shout out to my crew, who quickly kind of put their thinking caps on and really kind of thought outside the box on ways to reach people through education and bike safety. So behind me, I know my visuals are a little small, a little cramped here, but we started doing, some virtual outreach. And so we were doing some live streaming with different school groups and whatnot. And that is something that, we definitely now can use as a tool in our toolkit. Next, later on into the fall and whatnot, when we kind of had an idea about people's feelings around social gathering and whatnot, we started to look into doing socially distant bike rodeos. And so we've delivered a handful of those, and they're right here. And so this, is a way for us to still reach people, give them immediate feedback, and create those connections. For our adult programming, this year we had a fabulous partner with Johnson County Library, and we have been offering every month free virtual Maintain Your Ride classes. So far we've had almost 120 participants, and through that partnership, right here, Again, our instructors really kind of shown how creative they are. There was a couple of demonstration devices, I guess you could call it, that, you know, by virtue of being virtual, you can't get right around a bike to see it. And so our mechanics got really creative there. And this is one of the demonstrations. Again, I know it's a small picture, it's hard to see. But next, for our Safe Routes to School programming, our Safe Routes to School coordinator worked really hard with me and several community partners on the Move Your Way campaign. Definitely, again, as it sounds like it, you know, Safe Routes to School looked very different this year due to COVID. Her primary focus is in Wyandotte County, and those schools met remotely. But again, we were able to do a lot of outreach and education through our Move Your Way campaign. And this was a promotional campaign on the physical activity guidelines. And what we ended up doing through that, if you can see, is we did several pedestrian and bicycle videos, which are really well done, really fun and engaging. We did some physical activity bingo cards, and we also gathered a lot of great community partners, both to support and who supported us as well. So we ended up with some partner profiles through that. For our Women Bike KC, we had a couple of great virtual chats here. You can see this fantastic lady on the very top is Jennifer Lynn, and then here is Terry Barnes. And so these are two women who are really doing a lot of hard work to bring active living options to people throughout the community. Jennifer started the Kansas City chapter of the Black Girls Do Bike. And then Terry Barnes, she runs Black Women Get Fit and the NIA Project. And these are two really amazing projects, reaching out to people and encouraging active living. I kind of saved the best for last. This right here is our very own Mitchell Williams. And he was nominated and highlighted to be the first Spotlight LCI through the League of American Bicyclists. So he's lovingly called Sensei here with us, and he's all of that and more. And so the education team, you know, despite having a lot of restrictions and constraints, really shown this year, and I'm very proud of them. And if anybody needs some, you know, small pandemic group learning or whatnot, we got you covered.
Liz, you beat me to it. I was going to post that link too. So in the chat, we've posted links to Move Your Way and our pandemic learning options. So check those out. Thank you, Laura. Next up is our advocacy and policy program. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael Kelly.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. And thank you again for all of you coming today. So in terms of our policy achievements for 2020, we have a lot to celebrate at all levels, and we're just as ambitious and hopeful for 2021 as well. So let's get into it. At the federal level, much of our work centered on preserving the gains of multimodal investments and regulations. The clearest example of this win was on federal guidance that identified bike shops as essential businesses, enabling them to stay open as states began to issue lockdown orders to address the COVID-19 pandemic. This is something that could also be helpful again, as we're seeing states begin to shut down again to deal with the spike in recent cases. At the state level, through Missourians for Responsible Transportation, the statewide coalition that we're partnered with, along with TrailNet in St. Louis, PedNet in Columbia, and Ozark Greenways in Springfield, we developed a model complete streets ordinance template that has proven quite successful, especially in Missouri. Overall, at least 4 communities, including Lincoln, Osceola, Rogersville, and Westwood, Kansas, have adopted ordinances using our template. And another 5, Clinton, Joplin, KCK, Riverside, and Roland Park, are in various stages of moving towards adoption as well. And finally, at the local level, in May, Bike Walk KC successfully advocated for the adoption of a Vision Zero resolution, the first of its kind in the region. The resolution sets a goal of 2030 for eliminating traffic fatalities and serious injuries. Further, it requires the city to organize a task force to develop an action plan by December. Bike Walk KC is part of that task force, and we are working to meet that deadline. So with all of this in mind, what does this mean for 2021? Going back to the federal level, obviously we have the new administration coming in. The incoming Biden administration presents an opportunity to reshape our nation's transportation priorities, including for biking, walking, and transit. We will work with the League of American Bicyclists to advocate for legislation and funding to support those modes. Additionally, at the state level, we have been working with partners across the Show Me State to advance distracted driving legislation, as Missouri is one of only 2 states in the entire nation without something like this on the books. A central focus for us is ensuring an equitable law that does not lead to further over-policing of minority communities. And finally, at the local level, in addition to our continued efforts on Complete Streets and Vision Zero, we will also work to decriminalize mobility, particularly for walking, biking, and transit. In essence, this means advocating for changes to existing laws that unfairly target vulnerable road users without actually making streets safer. So these would include things like jaywalking laws, or in KCMO specifically, there is a law that requires wheels to not be dirty when they're driven on city streets. So these are just a few examples of the things that we want to see changed. And we're really excited and really hopeful for what we can get accomplished next year.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Michael. That was a great recap from the entire staff. And also, not to play favorites here, but I just want to point out that when told that we weren't going to do slides, Laura finds a way to bend and break the rules and actually creates an entire slideshow backdrop. I mean, I'm just using the beer hall, and yet she made hers informational and entertaining. So thank you guys all for those very quick. You guys packed a ton of good information into a very short time space. But Rogers, what's up next?
Jake, I think we're going to answer some questions, right? I think we're going to start with the questions people submitted during registration, and then get to as many as we can in the chat box.
Awesome. Let's do it. All right. So so as you registered, you submitted some questions, and we appreciate those. But we also want to get any questions that come up tonight as we're discussing things live. And also, if you haven't yet, scroll through. We're now at 3 full screens of attendees. So make sure you're popping through and checking out all those friendly, familiar faces. So that's just fantastic. But one of the first trends that I saw upon the questions that were submitted during registration, we're talking about complete streets, off-street connectivity, just infrastructure in general. So would the Bike Walk team like to tackle that one first?
So I'm going to kick it over to Thomas first, because in doing our work with our community dashboard, we've been inventorying all of the bike lanes around the region, and we're starting to gather some data on the pace of change of cities implementing bike networks.
I think one of the big things that I've learned through this process of sort of putting together our dashboard is that even though often I think we can get frustrated with the pace of change, and a lot of times individual projects can sort of get fixated on by proponents and opponents, and it can be the tone and the type of dialogue can be discouraging at times. As we put together this dashboard, what we learned was that we have increased the total number of miles of bike infrastructure and trails in the region by more than 10% in just the past 18 months or so, right? So this is on the whole, in terms of the entire infrastructure system, all parts of the region are making major progress towards more complete streets and active transportation. And I think it's useful to keep that perspective, particularly when we're fighting the hard fights, in city halls and with community organizations around the region, is that all of your work and our work is yielding results and seeing a better built environment for Kansas City.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. And again, there were a lot of great questions about that. And so I think that really helps show that we're going in the right direction. So another little cluster of questions from Ruth and David and Nicoya. Everybody wondering a little bit about Vision Zero, the update there. And I know, again, we've hit on some of these things just during our really brief remarks, but I want to make sure that we're able to give them a little bit more breathing room. So who'd like to chat about some Vision Zero updates?
Michael, take it away.
Yeah, so Vision Zero, as some folks may already know, is this idea that traffic violence is a public health crisis, and that in order for us to really be able to address it, we need to take an epidemiological approach. And so that is essentially what the idea behind the Vision Zero resolution is basically taking this problem and saying, what are the systemic approaches that we can address or change in order to make a safer street system for everyone? And so it's also to explain it a little bit more, it's something that began in Europe, actually in Sweden back in the 1990s, and has slowly begun to work its way through the United States in the years since. Something else that has been a major change over that time is that there has been a serious conversation among advocates, planners, and others about the role of equity and enforcement with regards to Vision Zero. Early on, enforcement was one of the key pillars that if you wanted to get something done, you had to rely on giving people tickets, punishing people, pulling people over. And what has come from conversations and studies is that doing too much of that will inevitably harm the most vulnerable road users, and it will also inevitably harm Black and brown road users in particular. And so the approach that Kansas City took with its own resolution was not only making equity a key pillar of that, but also recognizing that a greater emphasis has to be placed on things like engineering as well as engagement to make sure that we're working with the community to address the issues of unsafe streets, but do so in a way that's not going to create additional problems for the most vulnerable users in that part of the city.
All right, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Another question, and again, this kind of is a sum of the parts of what we've been hearing about, but it's also what I love about this annual meeting because it's one of those times where everybody gets to be here all in one room and chat about kind of the bigger picture of Bike Walk KC. But we've got a couple questions here that kind of go hand in hand, where Emily is wondering about the broad picture strategy for Bike Walk, knowing it's a very strategic organization. Just wanted to hear about the big pushes for 2021. And John just mentioned just simply wanted to learn more about the organization, which hopefully the last 20 minutes have provided that. But if you guys can just talk a little bit about kind of that big picture strategy for 2021, if that's easy to do in a couple minutes or less.
So our big picture for 2021, like most organizations these days, is have some goals and a vision for what we want to do, and then just see what happens in the world and how far we can get. So things are really, I think, moving in a two-tiered situation. The pandemic and all of the changes with traffic in neighborhoods and everybody being really turning to walking and biking as a way to protect their physical health and their mental health during the lockdown has really created a lot of interest that we can leverage with elected officials and folks at city halls around the region, and really drive those higher level conversations forward. But then at the same time, that grassroots interest really drives the ability to really rethink how we do our advocacy and our outreach and our education work, that's really embedded in local communities, so that we can partner with local communities and neighborhood associations and individuals to see, what is it in each neighborhood that is needed, and then, how can we help, if at all. And so a lot of, I think, the theme for next year is kind of that duality of the big picture, but then also really on the ground, grassroots. How can we support people with what they're going through right now?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So the next one is kind of an extension of that, and it kind of couples with a lot of what Michael's been talking about. But when we're talking about just neighborhood grassroots, we've had a few questions about neighborhood advocacy. So obviously Bike Walk KC does great advocacy work as an organization, but what can you just do with your neighbors to try to make more noise, I guess is the best way to say it.
So Liz just dropped a link in the chat to our local section on our website, which is organized in the different regions of the metro: north, south, east, west, central, and is our way to kind of catalog all of the things that are happening. And so if we have events going on in that part of the region, or if partners have added events to our calendar, they'll show up there. There are a lot of places around the region where the local city has its own bike and pedestrian advisory committee that citizens can join or attend meetings or get involved with. Those are often really useful citizens groups that are advising elected officials and city staff on things to do. So you can find links to all of those. Off the top of my head, I know that those groups exist in KCMO, Leawood, Shawnee, Lee Summit, several others around the region. And then on our advocacy page, bikewalkkc.org/advocacy, we have an action center where you can put in your address and find your own city council member and mayor, and really easily just send them a message saying that this is important to you, and you would like the city to do more than what it's doing, and share any ideas you have. We also have an advocacy mailing list that you can sign up for, so we can send you alerts that are tailored to things going on in your part of the metro area. And then Michael Kelly, our policy guy, is always available to chat more specifically if there's a particular problem or an issue in your neighborhood, and he does a really good job of helping folks figure out how to navigate the bureaucracy at whatever city hall that is in question, to help you kind of figure out how to make some progress.
Well, and that's a perfect segue to our next question, because people were asking about just general ways to volunteer. And so obviously lending your voice and kind of gathering that kind of momentum in your neighborhood is a fantastic way to get involved. And we also had a couple questions about our fundraisers this year, and not just Tour de Beer, which is kind of our big event that, saw some change this year, but still had a lot of success. But talk a little bit about the fundraising opportunities, ways that people can volunteer with those fundraisers. And also, if we got a couple minutes here, talk about Tour de Beer and just the evolution that it took this year through necessity, and maybe even some learnings or some excitement that may have been generated that may carry on for future years.
Absolutely. So like, all nonprofits, in this spring when things started shutting down and we all became concerned about the economic situation, like all nonprofits, we were obviously worried about our own financial health. But we've been really pleasantly surprised to see that our individual member and donor giving is actually setting a record for us so far this year. So those that are still able to make charitable contributions and that support us, we've been really grateful that many people have even increased their giving. And so it's really grateful to see people who care about something and have the ability to make that sort of an investment, are willing to keep doing that even in these uncertain times. Specifically about Tour de Beer, which is kind of our version of the gala, we did make it virtual, and we were really grateful to all of the breweries and the small businesses and the sponsors and the riders who were really generous with their time and energy and gracious in rolling with the changes we had to make along the way. And overall, I think we had a really good event. We had lots of positive feedback. We didn't have as many people participate because we had to limit the size because many of the breweries are small. But we also had fewer expenses without all of the in-person stuff that goes along with that ride. So at the end of the day, we ended up raising just as much money as we normally would in the Tour de Beer, which is really an important fundraiser for us to support our education and our policy work. So we're thankful to everybody who participated in that. This was also going to be the year in 2020 where we celebrated our 10th anniversary, and we were going to spend 12 months looking back and celebrating everything we've done, but then also doing a really big fundraising campaign. And we decided, sorry, this room is on a motion light, so I have to stay moving. So we did put our 10th anniversary celebration on hold while we dealt with what was coming at us in the spring and the summer. So our plan right now is to relaunch that birthday party in April and spend the next 12 months celebrating our 10th anniversary, and hope that by April of 2022, we will all be able to once again gather in person and have a big party, Boulevard Tours and Rec, and celebrate and see everybody in person.
Perfect, thank you. So what I love about this is that we're also getting some answers in the chat room to questions people are asking. So for example, Tom asked if there was someone around the community who can take old bikes, repurpose them so they can be, kind of get a second life in the community. And so thank you, Bill, for answering that with Revolve KC. I'll throw this one out to the chat room so you guys can throw your ideas here. We had a few questions about cold weather cycling tips. So if you get a chance while you're listening here, throw your favorite cold weather cycling tips into the chat room and we can crowdsource that answer as well. Any other ideas on the idea of ways to take older bikes or bikes that need a little bit of love and making sure they get a second life beyond Revolve KC?
Yeah, Laura, do you want to chat a little bit about our programs and then our other partners beyond Revolve that we work with?
So, because I was typing that in the chat, am I talking? I'm sorry. Am I talking about 816 and Revolve, or am I talking, Jake, about cold weather tips?
No, you're talking about 816 and Revolve, and really anything you want to talk about, Laura. This is your party. We're just here for the show. So
sorry, like I said, I was kind of had diverted attention there, but yeah, 816 and Revolve, those are two amazing recycled bike shops that are in the neighborhood, and as well as Hope Cycles. That is another bicycle shop that is situated at Hope Faith. It's not Hope Faith Ministries anymore, but that's more in the Northeast. We had one of their clients come through as an apprentice with us, and what they did a couple of years ago after he finished his apprenticeship is he went back and he started that recycle bike shop through Hope Faith. And so there's three different areas right there. So Hope Faith or Hope Cycles, 816 and Revolve, again, all really great. Also in KCK, Free Wheels for Kids, there's another option. I think that's through the Central Avenue Betterment Association. They host Free Wheels for Kids. Bike Walk KC, we do have our program where we take in gently used bikes and through some education on basic maintenance and whatnot, we're able to kind of repurpose those and put them back out into the community. So there's a lot of different options, but I definitely want to make sure that we give love to the shops that are out there, like 816, Revolve, and Hope Cycles, as extra options out there too.
It's awesome. I'm going to keep you on the hook here for a second because David asked who has worked on bike demo events, and I would expand that to say, tell us a little bit about more of those bike demo events and how they've had to adjust this year, and also if or how people can help.
So Expand on demo for me really quick. Are we talking about earn a bike type programs, or I'm sorry?
I'm a new member, got a bike in January, and talked to folks in Colombia, and they've done successful events where a major employer lets employees come out for a day, and several bike shops bring different bikes for them to try out with the idea of, find a bike or an electric bike that will help you commute to work instead of using your car as weather permits. And so I'm building a team to do that in a Midtown Kansas City employer for early April. So I have my email somewhere in the chat. This is a larger meeting than I expected. It's fabulous. But
we'll find you. We'll find a way to get a hold of you.
very good. Yeah, it's just David Haken at Gmail.
Okay.
Well, David, I mean, great question. Thank you. I can kind of speak to what we've done in the past from the bike walk side of things. Definitely through our Confident City Cycling class, one of our adult education offerings, we do cover kind of like a bike 101, as a way to help people focus in on what type of bike riding they want to do, and then when they go into a bike shop, whether it be a recycle or a retail bike shop, they have a little bit more confidence to say, I want to be commuting, so I need a bike appropriate for that. We have had opportunities previously to do some bike builds, through things like, again, this Confident City Cycling and like our lunch and learn opportunities. There's opportunities to do like a try and ride and things like that. And I think if you would want some contacts on other neighborhood shops who might be interested to contribute as well, I think we could help you out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David, for asking, and thank you, Laura, for that. Looks like, so we'll end, on a really easy question, of course. We had questions about, can anyone give examples or try to quantify biking and walking's impact on social issues, such as equity, climate, public health, again, just a real softball here. But I think this could be a really good way to sum up everything that we've been talking about for the last, 45 minutes or so, and put it in a bigger picture even. So, yeah, Eric, I don't know if you want to take that one, or anybody member of the team.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways where biking and walking, active transportation, as we call it, intersects with a lot of other issues. Some obvious ones are sustainability and climate protection, safety, health and wellness. Those are all obvious ones. Some other ones, are also some of the things that are topical right now. So equity, Kansas City is one of the most car dependent regions in the country, but at the same time, there are zip codes and census tracts in the east side and in KCK and other pockets of the region where more than half of households don't have access to a car. And so transportation options are really important for folks. If you look at a map of any of the big disparities in our society, whether it's food access or, anything from food access to health outcomes to life expectancy, those are the same maps as transportation disparities. And so, at the end of the day, the structural and systemic problems that create all these other conditions are also the same things that create problems for people with transportation. And so, in our work, we strive to always center equity as much as we can, and always more and more. And the way we approach it is always through partnerships. So, there are issues that are a little bit more related to walking and biking where we're going to take the lead. But then, especially in the intersectional issues, we're going to find partners in the community who are already providing leadership and find ways to support them. So, for example, we've supported the work of KC Tenants to get legislation for a housing and tenants bill of rights. We've supported a lot of other organizations along the way, folks like the Sunrise Movement, the Sierra Club. And so we really approach this as, where there's an intersection, then that's where we should be having a conversation about how we can be supportive.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone's questions. These are fantastic. The great thing is the conversation doesn't have to end now. Obviously, Bike Walk is active on social media channels. We've got ways to reach us through the website. So we're going to get to the part where maybe some of you have been waiting patiently for, where we're going to give away some prizes. But first, just indulge me for a second, and everybody smile and wave, because I'm going to take your great picture here. So smile and wave at the camera. Hey, hello. You are some good looking people. All right. So Liz, what do you think? Should we give away some stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So
tell us about the prizes.
Yeah, let me tell you about it. So the first prize I have going tonight is a Bike Walk KC swag bag. So we have some really cool branded Bike Walk KC stuff. This cute little bike cap that says I Bike KC on the side. And then surprise, it says Kansas City on the brim. So when you flip it up, because you're a cool kid, you can represent your city that way. So that's included with a Bike Walk KC t-shirt in our blue and orange colors, of course. Bike Walk KC socks that have the little bicycle on them. And additionally, one of our friends and supporters, Bill Poindexter, I've got a couple of books from him tonight because he's a local bike packing enthusiast and expert. He's been doing this for years, and he has actually written a book on bike packing. And I know that we're all looking for ways to get outside and get our own breathing space, and bike packing is definitely a way to do that. So that's included with the Bike Walk KC swag bag. And then I've got another bag. This one, we've got an excellent light set from our friends at Treklee Summit. This is a super, super nice light set. So you would be very excited to get this. A Bike Walk KC koozie.
Also super excited to get that.
Yeah, well, one, you need one for the other, right? And then that book from Bill Poindexter. So we've got two great prize packs to give away tonight. So
I don't hide the fact that it is my goal before I retire to become a game show host. So this is like my dream. I love this. So as everyone registered, you all had a number assigned to your registration. And through the power of technology, Liz has a magic number machine, otherwise known as Google's random number generator. And she is going to fire up the magic number machine and tell us who won. Let's go with package number 1 first, Liz.
All right, here we go. Package number 1. This is for the Bike Walk KC swag bag. After this, I'll make sure to get your address and also your t-shirt size, and so I can mail these to you. Okay, are we ready?
Jesse, I'm nervous too. I just saw that in the chat. I'm nervous. I'm not even eligible to win. Yeah, do drum roll wherever you're sitting. Let's do drum rolls. All right.
All right, hold your breath, folks. And we've got number 34, who is Eric Neuhauser. Are you here tonight, Eric? Let's see here. Uh-oh.
Right now, everyone else is being cutthroat and being like, pick another.
Right. There's no Eric Neuhauser, so I'm going to pick another.
Oh.
Okay, you've got another chance, folks. It is Priscilla. Priscilla, are you still here? I saw you earlier. Priscilla Reckling.
This is why you can't leave.
I'm here.
Yay!
I'm delighted. Thanks.
We are delighted for you, Priscilla. Priscilla, I'll send you an email and we'll get all those details worked out for you. Okay?
That sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Okay, and so for the second one, this one is for the light set and the book and the koozie.
Hit that random number machine.
Random number machine. Tell us the winner. All right, Bryant DeLong.
Again. If it's Priscilla again.
It's our North Kansas City Councilman, Bryant DeLong.
Thank you. Okay.
Hooray! You can take this really super sweet light set on those beautiful protected bike lanes in North Kansas City. The award-winning, right?
I will, plus all the bars and other restaurants. So we got all kinds of good places to ride. So I will use
Fabulous.
it. Thank you.
That was assumed, but yes. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Liz, for indulging us with the magic number machine, and thank you all for coming. So before we wrap up, Rogers, what I love about this is that between the different employee reports that we heard from, the staff reports, and then all the great questions in the chat room, this has just been a great example of how broad Bike Walk KC's mission is. And so we touched on it earlier, but hit on it one more time just as a good way to wrap this whole thing up. What else do we have coming up in 2021?
Coming up in 2021, there's a few common themes that we're going to be working on across a lot of our programs. First, we're going to continue to advocate for walking, biking, and equity to be at the center of the pandemic recovery, so that as we, don't just get back to normal, but we hopefully get to a better normal, that these issues are centered in all of that work. Second, we're going to work to build community capacity for advocacy and education and events. So it's not just our faces that are doing this work, but it's people in communities around the region. We're going to continue the work from the last couple of years of helping survivors and family members of people who are victims of traffic violence to create a safe, caring space where they can self-organize so that they can provide mutual support. And for those that choose, who can then take that experience and channel it into advocacy to make things better for people. We're going to keep having more of our virtual conversations with local leaders in the community. I know many of you have either joined us or been a part of those. I see Jennifer Lynn and I see a few others here. Those are all archived on our website, and I'll let Liz put the link in the chat, but we're going to have more of those coming up on more topics. And then finally, Tour de Beer again. Normally we do that event in May. I think we will likely postpone that to the fall and see if there is a way we can, by the fall, get to a little bit more of at least a hybrid, if not a fully in-person event. So those are the things we'll be working on, just a few highlights for the coming year.
That's awesome. Well, hey, this wraps up our annual meeting. And again, we're so thrilled to have had such a great turnout. So thank you guys all for coming. We will make a recording of this available. If you know of somebody who was not able to join us in person tonight, you can share that with them. And of course, always check out our website and our social media channels for all sorts of great information. But Rogers, anything else? Team, anybody, anything else?
Thank you all for being here.
You guys are awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And we can't wait to gather in person soon, but not too soon. Wear your masks.